My own family texted me, "We need distance from you. Please stop contacting us completely." No call, no pause to breathe. Just a cold sentence lighting up my screen like a warning flare. I stood there in my tiny apartment, the silence louder than any argument we'd ever had. And instead of begging, instead of breaking, I typed back the calmest line I've ever written. They had no idea what that moment would cost them. Before I tell you the rest, hit like and drop your city so I know who's listening on the other side of this mess. My name is Maeve Whitlock, and for most of my life, I've been the kind of person people handed problems to like spare coats quietly, automatically, without asking whether I could carry the weight. I work in payroll at a medical facility here in the city, a job built on order and precision. Two things I've clung to for years. My apartment reflects that soft lighting, clean counters, receipts filed by color in a drawer that sticks a little when it's humid. Nothing fancy, just stable. And stability in my family has always meant one thing I pay. My mother, Linda, loves to say family helps family. She usually says it when she's standing near the sink towel in hand doing that thing where she sighs instead of finishing her sentences. My father, Robert, prefers something more pointed lectures about loyalty duty, how he didn't raise me, to nickel and dime blood. If his voice tightens, it means I'm expected to cover whatever bill is floating in the background. And then there's my sister Nora. She's younger by 3 years, louder by a lifetime. Growing up, she always knew how to make herself the center of a room. New jackets, new hair, new drama. She calls me banker girl, half joke, half weapon, fully convenient when she needs a security deposit or a refill on her car payment. And every time I tried to say no, the family chorus chimed in, "Don't be dramatic, you know she can't do it alone, you know you're the responsible one." Even the extended family played along. Our group chat was a constant stream of updates, photos, memes, complaints, until money came up. Then suddenly, every voice sharpened, reminding me how much my parents had given, how much Nora deserved a break, how I shouldn't make things awkward. It never mattered that they didn't know my budget or the knots I tied myself into each month to keep everyone afloat. In all of this noise, the only person who never took advantage of me was my Uncle Grant. He runs a small moving service across town, the kind of job that gives you strong hands and a quiet read on people. He never asked for anything, never hinted, he just watched. I didn't realize how important that would become until much later. For years, I told myself this was normal. Every family has roles, and mine just happened to make me the one who paid for the emergencies, the shortfalls, the "I'll pay you back next weeks" that never came. I told myself it wasn't personal. But every time I opened my banking app, every time I watched my own plans shrink so theirs could grow something small inside me, tightened. And then came the night everything tipped, the night that text arrived, the one that felt less like a message and more like a door slamming. The days leading up to that message felt strange in a way I didn't have language for at the time. Small shifts, little stings, moments that should have rolled off me, but instead settled under my skin like grit. It started with Nora, as it usually did. She showed up at my parents' place in a brand new coat tags still creased into the fabric and immediately started talking about the safer apartment she was eyeing across the city. She didn't look at me when she said it. She didn't have to. "You'll cover the deposit, right?" she asked, scrolling her phone voice casual like ordering takeout. I said no. Not loudly, not angrily, just a steady no I'd practiced in the bathroom mirror. My mother, Linda, froze with a dish in her hand. My father, Robert, sucked in a slow, disappointed breath. That was all it took. The room shifted, the air changed, and suddenly I was the selfish one again. Nora didn't even flinch. "Come on, banker girl," she said, smiling like she was in on a joke I didn't get. "It's not that deep." I left early that night, sat in my car with the heater ticking, and wondered why a simple boundary felt like a crime. But the real blow came 2 days later when my office phone rang. I answered with my work voice calm, clipped, professional, only to hear my parents' landlord cheerfully confirming the renewal of their automatic deposit agreement. My deposit agreement. He thanked me for reversing a late fee. A late fee I didn't know existed. Then he continued talking, mentioning how my parents had given him my work email and apparently my schedule so he could reach me at a good time. I remember staring at the wall across from my desk, the cheap canvas art blurring as heat crawled up my neck. They hadn't just used my money. They'd opened the door into my professional life, handed out personal information like party favors. Privacy wasn't something I'd assumed I had to guard from my own family, but suddenly I wasn't sure I had any at all. That evening, I drove straight to their apartment complex. The hallway smelled like cleaning solution and leftover takeout. I sat them down, my parents, on the sagging couch I'd bought Nora, leaning in the doorway, and said the words I'd swallowed for years: I deserve to know what I'm paying for. My mother's face hardened. We feel attacked. My father crossed his arms. Take that tone with your coworkers, not with us. Nora laughed from the hall. Should we tip you now or later? It wasn't a fight. It wasn't even loud. It was worse casual cruelty delivered with the ease of muscle memory. I left without finishing my sentence. The next afternoon, the group chat notification appeared. The message that changed everything. We need distance from you. Please stop contacting us completely. Something in me didn't break, it clicked. Into place. Permanently. The minutes after that text felt suspended, like the air thickened just to keep me still long enough to understand what had happened. My family didn't ask for space. They declared an exile. No discussion, no confusion. A verdict. And almost instantly their silence flooded in bright, echoing final. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the message until my screen dimmed. No anger. Just a cold, settling clarity I'd never felt before. If this was the distance they wanted, I could honor it, fully. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a name I didn't expect: Uncle Grant. He never called unless there was a reason. When I picked up, his voice was steady, careful. I'm at your parents' place, he said. They asked me to help pack. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. Pack what? Everything, he said quietly. Clothes, dishes, photos. They're moving out. I closed my eyes. Of course they were. They weren't just cutting contact, they were physically uprooting themselves, disappearing without a trace, leaving me behind like a bill they didn't want anymore. Grant hesitated before adding, I'll make sure anything with your name on it gets returned. Don't worry. He didn't take sides. He just dealt in truth. And that truth, him standing in their living room boxing up their lives, hit harder than the text itself. After the call, I opened the drawer of color-coded receipts I'd kept for years. Rent, utilities, transportation, medical bills, subscriptions, groceries. All the invisible threads I'd used to stitch their lives together month after month. I'd told myself I kept the records for my own sanity, but in that moment they felt like a map. A record of every place I'd abandoned myself to keep them afloat. I spread the receipts across the floor. Green for housing, yellow for utilities, blue for transportation, red for medical, purple for everything miscellaneous they never remembered I paid. The categories curled at the edges like they were tired too. I sat there on the hardwood, knees pulled in, and for the first time let myself see it clearly. This wasn't support. This wasn't love. This was dependence disguised as duty. And I had become the infrastructure holding up a house that never had room for me. The thought didn't break me, it freed me. That night Elias came over. He didn't knock loudly, just tapped once and let himself in the way someone does when they care enough to stay gentle. They texted you, he said softly. Not a question. He could read it on my face. I slid the phone to him. He scanned the message, jaw tense but eyes soft. You don't deserve this, he said. I didn't cry. I didn't collapse. I just exhaled like someone finally loosened a strap around my chest. I'm done, I said. Elias sat beside me on the floor among the piles of receipts. Then let's start with one thing, he said. Show me what you've been carrying. I handed him the first stack, green. Housing. He looked through them slowly like flipping pages in a story that finally explained the ending. The next morning, I walked into Dr. Priya's office and told her everything. The text, the packing, the years. She listened, nodded, and finally said, Maeve, ending a financial entanglement isn't abandonment, it's self-preservation. That sentence was the permission I didn't know I'd been waiting for. By the time I left her office, my mind was steady. My hands weren't shaking. I knew exactly what needed to happen next. The next message I'd send my family wouldn't be emotional. It would be factual final and built entirely on the truth they'd forced me to carry alone. I didn't send anything that night. I slept with my phone on silent face down the way you do when you're finally done letting it run your life. But the next morning when I turned it over, the group chat was a storm missed messages stacked like fallen dominoes. Nora had started it. Of course she had. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? Mom said you're being dramatic again. Then fine, we'll do everything without you. If they wanted to cut me off, why were they demanding I reply? I scrolled back to the original message. We need distance from you. Please stop contacting us completely. It still felt unreal, clean and sharp like a paper cut. But now I had something they didn't: clarity. I walked to my small kitchen table, laid out the color-coded stacks from the night before, and snapped photos. One for each category: housing, utilities, medical transportation, subscriptions, miscellaneous. Proof of 7 years of being the family's silent foundation. My fingers didn't shake. They used to. They didn't now. Then I opened the family group chat. My message arrived as a single block of quiet precision. I'm honoring your request for distance. Here is a summary of the payments I've been making on your behalf. All of these will end on the dates circled. Please transfer the leases and accounts into your own names within the next 30 days. I attached the photos, one by one. Send, send, send. And then I added the line I knew would finally make them stop pretending they didn't understand what I contributed. Of course, I'll cancel my direct deposits first thing. For 2 minutes, silence. I imagined their screens lighting up, their eyes darting across numbers, dates, totals they had never once bothered to ask about. Then the panic began. Mom! Maeve, what is this supposed to mean? Dad money is not the same as family. Don't weaponize it. Nora, you're sick. You did this to humiliate us. Aunt Marla chimed in. Then a cousin. Then the cousin's spouse. Little gray typing dots swarmed the screen like gnats. Mom again. We meant distance from your attitude, not from you. I typed back. Your message said stop contacting you completely. I'm honoring it. Dad sent a long paragraph. No punctuation. All fury. After everything we did for you growing up, this is the thanks we get. We trusted you with our bills because we thought you understood family better than this. I didn't bother responding to the guilt trip. I'd heard it for years in 100 variations. Nora switched tactics. I can't afford to move right now. I'll be in a dangerous area. Are you happy if something happens to me? I stared at the message, breath steady. Emotional blackmail, their favorite tool. I hope you stay safe, I wrote, but I'm not responsible for your lifestyle. Silence. Then Mom called. Then Dad. Then Nora. Call after call, each one ringing out on my screen until I hit Do Not Disturb. They wanted a reaction. I wasn't giving them one. An hour later, a new message appeared, not in the group chat, but privately. Grant. I'm dropping off a few boxes tonight, he wrote. Stuff that belongs to you. They didn't open them. I paused. Belongs to me. When he arrived that evening, he stood in my doorway holding 3 neatly stacked boxes, his jacket dusty from moving furniture. They tried to rush me, he said. Told me not to bother with anything that wasn't theirs. But I saw your name on a few things. He set the boxes down gently. Inside, unopened kitchen towels, a blender still in its packaging, a router they'd never installed. Things I'd bought for them, tiny attempts to make their life easier, pushed aside, forgotten, still taped shut. Grant watched me take it in. You did a lot more for them than they ever admitted, he said. Don't let them twist this. I felt something twist in my chest anyway, grief, I think. Not for losing them, but for finally seeing the truth without the filter of obligation. When Grant left the group, chat exploded again. Mom, how could you let Grant see our private business, Dad? We will never forgive you for embarrassing us like this. Nora, I hope you're proud. You ruined everything. I typed nothing. I placed my phone on the counter and poured myself a glass of water instead. I drank it slowly, deliberately, quietly. 10 minutes passed before the messages changed tone. Anger to pleading just as predictable as tides. Mom, please don't do this. Your father isn't sleeping. Dad, I worked my whole life. You owe me respect. Nora, if you stop paying the phone plan, how am I supposed to call work or get help? I responded only once. I'm not discussing money anymore. Another pause. Then the long-held family pattern cracked open in front of me like an egg dropped on tile. Nora, again, I just don't understand why you're so cold now. I answered, You told me not to contact you. I'm simply doing what you asked. This time, no one replied. The quiet stretched long enough for me to hear the hum of my refrigerator, the soft thud of footsteps from the apartment above mine. Real sounds, present sounds, my own life resurfacing. But the peace didn't last long. At midnight, the group chat lit up again, extended family joining now. Aunt Marla. We never expected this from you, Maeve. Cousin Blair. This is extreme. You could have handled it better. Another cousin family sacrifices for each other. Why can't you? I didn't respond. I uploaded a simple document instead. Budget templates, renters' aid resources, contact numbers for utility providers, general tools to help them stand on their own feet. At the bottom, I wrote, You're capable. You always have been. No noise followed. Just a stillness so complete it felt like stepping out of a storm into a quiet hallway. Around 2 a.m., one final message appeared from Mom. If you do this, you're dead to me. I stared at the line for a long time. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. I'm sorry you feel that way, I wrote, and placed my phone face down. In the darkness of my apartment for the first time in years, I felt something that scared me more than their anger. Relief. By morning, the group chat was silent, an unnatural, echoing quiet after days of noise. I made coffee, sat at my small kitchen table, and for the first time in years didn't brace for a crisis. Instead, I opened my laptop and finished what I'd started. I changed passwords, removed my card from shared services, ended every payment tied to their names. Each confirmation felt like cutting a thread that had been wrapped too tightly around my ribs. Later that week, I sat across from Dr. Priya and told her I felt both lighter and terrified. She smiled gently. Peace can feel dangerous when you've lived in chaos. Elias came over that night, carrying takeout and a quiet understanding. He didn't offer advice. He just sat beside me on the couch knees, touching mine, grounding me. I'm proud of you, he said. And for once, I believed it. In the weeks that followed, my life didn't get louder, it got clearer. I walked without checking my phone. I cooked dinner without waiting for someone to need something. And slowly, the quiet stopped feeling like abandonment and started feeling like freedom. I learned that love without respect isn't love, and boundaries aren't cruelty, they're survival. If you've ever had to step back from someone you cared about just to save yourself, share your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.